businesses say we can't operate in the state of Ohio. We've lost so many businesses, new businesses are not coming right now, and we have to make sure that as we modernize this government, as we make government more efficient and more effective, and we can lower the cost of supporting that government, we then become a lot more attractive to businesses to be able to reach a bottom line and to be successful in this state. You take that and you combine it with an improved legal system. You create a regulatory system that is not driving people out of this state. And if, in fact, we can retrain our workers, these are the kind of things that will bring success to the state of Ohio. I'm in this race because I came here in 1970, and it was the promised land. Many of you have heard me say that, and I've seen it drift. My pledge to you is we're going to get Ohio back into the promised land again by creating prosperity, jobs, and giving a reason for our kids not only to get educated here, but also to be in a position to stay and have an exciting future. Hey, let's just face it, it's exciting to have her. She's a terrific pick, and she's different than what we've seen, and she's going to make a huge difference, and she's going to have a big role, and she's going to be my confidant, and together, we're going to fix this state and push it into the 21st century. So it is my great pleasure to be able to introduce the next Lieutenant Governor of the state of Ohio, Mary Taylor.
Well, thank you. Wow. Thank you, John, for inviting me to join you and be a part of a team that's going to transform Ohio. This is a new day in Ohio, and together John Kasich and I will approach government in a new way to restore prosperity, to make our state great again, to make the lives of our citizens better. Ohioans are looking for new leadership and a pathway from the impossible to the unbelievable. Imagine an Ohio that attracts new business, brings jobs, and grows our population. That's the movement John Kasich and I see in Ohio's future. A movement to bring our budget under control. A movement to limit frivolous lawsuits that bog down our state. A movement to retrain our workers, and a movement with a primary goal of transforming government as we know it. For the past 3 years, I've worked to protect Ohio taxpayers from wasteful spending and to instill accountability in state government. In this economy, Ohioans deserve to know that their scarce dollars are being spent efficiently and appropriately. Ohioans correctly ask, does government spend my tax dollars responsibly? Despite my repeated warnings about a looming multi-billion-dollar budget hole and the dangers of over-relying on one-time state and federal stimulus money, I've been ignored. As you know, I've tried to help. I've pointed out the problems that we face, and I've offered solutions. But our governor is a hard guy to help. As Auditor of State, I've had a great opportunity to see how governments across Ohio work, those who do it right and those who do it wrong. For the past 3 years, I've been in the role of government watchdog. Once elected Lieutenant Governor, I will assume the role of agent for change. John and I will use our experience and our records to form a leadership team whose goal is to reset government as we know it. We will transform state government and make Ohio a better place to live, work, and raise a family. I've known John for several years. The more John and I discuss the important issues facing our state, the more I realize how similar our ideas, our record of leadership, and our accomplishments really is. John grew up in a blue-collar town in Pennsylvania. I was raised in Springfield Township, rural part of Summit County. John was the son of a postal worker. I'm the daughter of a union bricklayer. Honest, hardworking American values shaped our childhood and made our families strong. We both learned early that personal responsibility and hard work would allow each of us to achieve what we could dream. John Kasich and I believe that government should only do that which people are unable to do for themselves. We know that if government gets out of our way, businesses will create jobs here in Ohio, and we will prosper. Ronald Reagan said it best when he said, Government's first duty is to protect the people, not run their lives. We need to eliminate excessive taxes, red tape, and government interference that chases jobs out of Ohio. Together, John Kasich and I will approach our jobs as a team and use our experience to transform the role and the size of state government. Our records speak for themselves. John Kasich and I believe that, like Ohio's families, governments can't continue and state government cannot continue to live beyond its means. John worked to overhaul the welfare system in Congress, while I voted against the largest tax increase in the history of the state of Ohio. He championed national defense reform and pointed out wasteful government spending. I helped craft Ohio's tax reform plan in 2005, which provided real tax relief for Ohio's families and Ohio's businesses. We reduced personal income tax rates by 21% across the board, and we put over $2 billion back in the pockets of Ohio's taxpayers. As a congressman, John Kasich constructed the plan that balanced our federal budget for the first time in decades. And recently, I've pointed out the shortcomings of using accounting gimmicks and one-time money to prop up an unsustainable budget right here in Ohio. A budget that is certain to lead to a massive multi-billion-dollar budget hole and fewer jobs in our future. We're all on the same page about the challenges our state faces. Now it's time to solve them. It's a new day, and we have a new way. We are the leadership team with the credentials, experience, and record of accomplishments to transform government. We can do better, and we will work tirelessly to bring jobs and prosperity back to Ohio. Together, we can take Ohio from the impossible to the unbelievable. This is a movement to fix this state. And I look forward to working with John Kasich to face the challenges and lead Ohio back to prosperity. Thank you.
Hey!
Probably no questions. All right, Hallett, what do you want?
For Auditor Taylor, how do you respond to critics who say you have put your own ambitions above the party's well-being?
I am excited about what John and I can achieve in Ohio, and I'm excited about the opportunity to transform state government and make the changes that are necessary so that Ohio and Ohio citizens can be prosperous once again. This is a great opportunity not only for John and I, but for the entire state of Ohio to once again be the state that we were many years ago when in Akron the rubber factories were up and running and Ohioans had jobs. When my son graduates from high school and college, my sons graduate, I want them to have good job opportunities, and that's really what this is all about.
You mentioned that you have been speaking out against one-time money. I looked back at the numbers today, and it was something like $8 billion you thought what the whole would be. How does that dovetail with the plan to phase out the income tax, which would provide budget cuts as well? I mean, how do you dovetail those two?
When several months back, as you recall, we ran what we called a sustainability analysis and determined and answered the question that many Ohioans were asking: what happens to Ohio when all of this one-time federal and state money is gone? And we identified that we could face a massive budget deficit of $8 billion. John and I have a mess, and we have a mess that we're going to have to take head-on in January when we take office in 2011. And we recognize the challenge that's before us, but we also have the credentials and the accomplishments that speak to what it's going to take to transform government so that it costs less, so that we can create, or businesses can create, jobs here in Ohio.
Let me just speak to that for a second, because I think there's been some misunderstanding in the press about my program to, one, phase out the death tax, kill the death tax, frankly. And like I like to say, if you want to see a movie star, you go to Hollywood. If you want to meet a rich, successful, entrepreneurial, job-creating Ohioan, you go to Naples, Florida. I'll take you with me sometime. We'll go through the locker rooms down there, and you'll see that. We know we're driving people out. Secondly, on the income tax, somehow people in the press assumed that I was saying we'd get rid of this in 1 year. I never said that. I said it was a phase-out process. And we don't know how deep the hole even is right now, because we don't have any independent budget office. We're just doing the best we can, using numbers that the auditors put together and drawing some assumptions. Let me tell you that we will not attempt to phase this out in a manner that is not consistent with being able to modernize the government and dig ourselves out of this hole. But folks, you have to understand that when businesses make decisions about where they're going to be, if our taxes are up at, we tax one of the most aggressive states in the country, if our regulations are too onerous, people look at the state and they say, we're not going to go there. They're going to Indiana, they're going to Tennessee, they're going to Florida, they're going to Texas. Why? Lower levels of taxation. Look, I've been in business, and I know how business people make decisions. And if Ohio's costs are too high, they go somewhere else where their costs are going to be lower. So don't look at this program of reducing taxes as something that isn't going to be a positive thing. Because if we keep going the way we're going, there's less for schools, there's less for arts, there's less for health care, and we're chasing our tail. If we can stabilize this government, if we can reduce this government in a responsible and modernizing way, throwing the politics out, and we reduce these taxes, you're going to read stories in Forbes magazine and the Wall Street Journal about, look what's happening in Ohio. It's a great place because we got great workers and a great tradition. One final point. When I became the Budget Committee Chairman in 1995, we had a 10-year projected deficit of $3 trillion and a $250 billion year deficit. When I left in 2000, with everybody saying you can't do this, we cut taxes on risk-taking and investment, which spurred the economy. Not only did we balance the budget, but we paid down $500 billion in the national debt, never had been done before. And we were running a $250 billion surplus, and we had a 10-year projected surplus of $5 trillion. We can do it there, you can do it here, and we're going to do it the same way, and all that will lead to a more prosperous state. That's what we're interested in, and Mary's going to be front and center in getting us there.
You've both been critical of the governor's use of one-time money. If you had been in the governor's office, would you have rejected that stimulus money? And if so, how would you have balanced the budget?
Joe, if I was in the governor's office, we wouldn't be where we are. And look, no, I mean, I'm serious. I mean, don't ask me to, he put the car in the ditch. I like to say, thank God there's a ditch, or he would have gone over the cliff. No, I mean, seriously. I mean, look, he ignored these problems all along. I'm not going to tell you that there weren't Republicans in the past who also ignored the changing landscape for our state. But, he got in there and he just was on cruise control, didn't frankly know what he wanted to do. This is not really about him. Look, people have already judged what he's done. We're not doing well. This is now about the future. So, Joe, we're going to take every program, we're going to analyze it. The best thing to think about is the past to determine the future. Do you know how he did when he was in Washington? And look how he's done here. Look what I did when I was in Washington, Joe. Not only balancing the budget, but I took on Republican interests like the Pentagon and killed the B-2 bomber and saved this country a ton of money. We had prosperity in those days, and we're going to have it here.
You mentioned the business climate, and Mary mentioned voting in favor and helping with the tax reform. That system is still in place right now, and how is it not the responsibility of those who put that in place that the businesses are not coming?
One of the things that we need to do, and I think John would agree, we need to look at our tax system, and we need, as we look at all of state government, and we need to ask ourselves the question, is this the form of government that's going to lead us into prosperity in the next century? Is this the form of government and the system of taxation that's going to allow our state to once again be a prosperous state? And I think it's fair to say that everything is going to be considered, and taking a critical look at the structure of our tax code and asking the question, is this what we need for today and for our future, or do we need to make some other transformation in our tax code?
Let me say that I think they made an effort, but they just weren't bold enough. I mean, the proof's in the pudding. You're from Dayton? Where are you from?
From the AP.
Oh, from the AP. Well, if you lived in Dayton, you couldn't find NCR anymore, okay? I mean, NCR, 100 years, they're moving out. People moving across to Indiana. Why are they doing that? So I understand the frustrations that many of you have. You say, how can it happen? How can we do this? How can you possibly get this done? Well, first of all, wouldn't it be great if we took the politics out of decision-making? And that's exactly how we balance the budget. You take the politics out of decision-making, you don't have favorite sons, and daughters, you make good, hard choices, and we have no choice here. Because if we keep going, can't you see how we're spiraling down? And now you read Forbes magazine, I guess the story came out, we're like, 48th in terms of the level of taxes. I mean, it's not just taxes either. It's taxes, it's regulations, it's lawsuits, it's your skilled workforce. I mean, if you don't have those things, people don't come here. And if you can begin to get them, then people will get here. This isn't about politics, folks. This has never been about politics for me. This is about fixing this state and using the kind of practices that small businesses and families do to be able to be on a solid foundation and to thrive. I mean, my only purpose and Mary's, our only purpose in this whole thing is we want to get this state humming again. And it's not all about cutting. It's about reforming as well and doing things better and smarter. And that's what we're going to engage in with one purpose. People are going to have work again in this state, which they don't have. We're going to bring work to this state because we're going to provide the incentives. And you want to know about Department of Development? They're going to report to me, and they're going to report to her. And we're going to get this job done, and anything that's standing in the way, we're going to take it down. We're going to fix it.
So are you saying the tax reform and the tort reform that cleared the General Assembly when Mr. Devine was there simply didn't go far enough?
It wasn't enough. I mean, it's clear, the proof's in the pudding. I mean, what's the question? We've lost, 300,000 jobs over the course of the last 3 years. We're one of only 2 states to have created no new net jobs since 2001. Michigan is in a quicksand, and we have a rope tied to ourselves. And as they sink in, they pull us closer and closer. If you look at Indiana, how is it possible that Indiana had a budget surplus? How is it that they had $1 billion in a rainy day fund? You know how? Because Mitch Daniels went into that job and he used business-like opportunities, small business opportunities and values to drive the change in the state. I think they did their best, but it wasn't enough, and the proof's in the pudding. I mean, it's just that simple.
Mary, you were in the legislature at the time that happened. Did you think at the time you were casting that vote that what you were doing was not good enough?
I actually spent 4 years during my time in the legislature talking about tax reform. It started during my first term in office, and we had lots of discussions, and I felt like we were heading in the right direction at the time. I did feel like there was more we could do. John talks about killing the death tax, and all you have to do is, your comment about if job opportunities for Ohioans are in Naples. All you have to do is look at other states that have more competitive tax systems than Ohio and look at how are they surviving these tough times. And so, yes, I did feel at the time there was more that we could have done, but I was pleased that we at least took the first bold step to finally reform our antiquated tax code and provide real tax relief to all Ohio's taxpayers.
Is part of it a communications problem? It seems like the public, the polls showed, had no idea that taxes were lowered or the business climate was improved. Do you think part of it is a communication problem?
Oh, no, I don't think it's, listen, corporations don't make, and small businesses don't make determinations on the basis of PR. They make decisions on the basis of their bottom line. If you want to start you're an entrepreneur, you want to start a business, you want to start a business where the wind's at your back. You don't care about mottos, slogans, handshakes, nice smiles, or anything else. You want to know where you're going to make money and get people to work. I know this, because I've been on the boards of public and private companies. Many of you know I chased around the country and created jobs with Lehman Brothers, designer shoe warehouse right here in town. We were in the IPO. I was there at Christmas, and I walked around the store, and I thought, isn't it great these people are working? And the fact is that business people do not make decisions on slogans. Now, why do you think NCR left? Why do you think the Toyota plant is not here in Ohio? We got to fix it. We're going to have to work with organized labor. We're going to have to work and enhance the assets that we have inside of our communities. And we got a lot of opportunity here. You take Cleveland. Some of you are from Cleveland. Beyond LeBron James, we also have University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, and Case Western Reserve. I mean, what a beautiful combination of assets. We're going to drive that as an asset not only in this country but around the world. See, there's been nobody in charge, no one with a vision, and it's been this way for a long time. And that's why I've come back, really. I've come back because I think with the political experience and the economic experience, we can have success. And with Mary Taylor, I mean, come on, what an exciting person to have standing here. I mean, this lady knows what she's doing. She's tough. She's tough. She doesn't blink. We've sat in my house. She said, John, don't you not focus on this issue? I said, no, Mary, we're going to focus on it. I mean, Mary's tough and she's smart, and you've never been able to show her not having the right numbers and not having the expertise. So it's going to be very, very cool. This is very cool, what's happening today, and we're all excited about it.
Mary, would you be looking to take a cabinet position in the administration, and if so, which one?
We've had very preliminary discussions on a cabinet position, yes. I would be looking to take a cabinet position. We have yet to define what the cabinet position would be.
Let me just say this about it. Mary's going to be roving all across state government. We don't have time to have a lieutenant governor over in some corner somewhere. We're going to be very aggressive. We know what it's going to take to get this done. So we've already been building a team of people who are experts and can get to work on this. But one of Mary's job is going to be, there's always a lot of talk. You see the duck floating on top of the water. We want to see how the feet are working underneath, because we cannot fail in this. I was just in Mason, Ohio. We had 250 people down there. Wish you all could have been there. It was a great event at a place where they develop robots for manufacturing, and small businesses down there. They're like, I said, I'm not going to be typical. We're going to get this done. You're going to have access to me. Let me give you another issue. You tell me how this workers' comp thing that's strangling small businesses in this state has been allowed to go on. This is killing the small businesses in this state. We're not going to ignore that. There's some people make some money by offering a group rating. Tough. We're going to move on. We're going to deal with it, because this is about her kids, my kids, and your kids. That's what it's about. That's why we'll have the courage to get it done.
The Ohio Democratic Party chief likened your policies to those of Ken Blackwell, the former failed gubernatorial candidate. Are your policies the same as Ken Blackwell's, and are we seeing a repeat of that?
Well, I wasn't in politics during that period, but what I do know is this. If you can have government that is a last resort, not a first resort, if it'll do its job efficiently and effectively, if you can lower the cost of supporting that government, if you can lower taxes and create an entrepreneurial environment in the state of Ohio, you're going to win. We don't need to reinvent this. I mean, we've seen it happen throughout our history. Ronald Reagan. Want to label me as somebody? Think about Reagan. He came in 1980, the country, Jimmy Carter told us to wear a sweater and ride a bicycle to work. Reagan came in and he reduced government and he reduced taxes. And think about what we did in 95. I became Budget Committee Chairman, by the way. Took 10 years. I was offering budgets against my own party. You all know the story, and George Bush said he was really mad at me because I criticized his budget. My wife sent me flowers and said, I'm mad about you. That's when I decided to marry her. The fact of the matter is, when we took power in 95, interest rates came down. We had great prosperity in the 90s, and then the Republicans lost their way. Then the Democrats took over, and we were completely lost. So we got to get it back again. And that's what people in the country want.
Governor Strickland said he's already lobbying for another round of stimulus funds for the states to bail them out. Do you think that's a wise course, and would you accept another round of stimulus funds?
Look, I don't think going to Washington on your knees with a tin cup begging for somebody else to bail us out is an answer, because at some point, that ends. I mean, we have to accept personal responsibility. Mary and I both grew up in families with mothers and fathers that talked to us about personal responsibility. That's why we're in trouble today. That's why we're in trouble in the country today, because politicians have refused to accept personal responsibility. In the days I was in Washington, the day I left, they had a parade to the airport to make sure I was getting on the plane to get out of town, okay? I mean, you have to hold people accountable. And you do it because you're looking for the long term. So, I mean, going down there and begging again, come on, he begged the first time, please, please. I mean, that's embarrassing. We're Ohio. We're Ohio. You know, we don't go around begging people to bail us out. We'll change that value system, too. Mary?
If I could just add, we can't continue to put off today's problems for tomorrow. And we can't keep kicking the can down the road and expecting a better day to come. Part of being a leader is making a better day and dealing with the problems that you face today so that we face a better future. So we gotta stop these one-time solutions to what are obviously long-term problems.
Can you lead us through how this came together and who contacted who, when, and just how all worked out?
Joe, I have a great group of people who I assigned to start a search for the pick. And you got to admit, we were pretty good at keeping our mouths shut. I mean, you know, till you got going, you know? And look, we were looking for somebody really that is capable of taking over. And frankly, one of the things that really, and I've known Mary for a long time. I mean, I remember when she was running for auditor. Truth be told, I told her she shouldn't do it because I was concerned about her family and I didn't realize how tough she is. Nobody going to push Mary Taylor around. So we were concerned about finding somebody who could be governor, and we were concerned about finding somebody who is absolutely going to be consistent with what this team has developed over the last number of years about how we fix the state. And Mary came to my house. We just didn't even, this wasn't even it was just, she said, I'd like to come up and talk to you about some things, and she came up to my house, and I was blown away. And my wife, and by the way, just a word on that, my wife's mother died late yesterday afternoon, and I want to just say to my wife, I don't know if she's watching, I love you, sweetheart, and the girls are good, and we love Leslie. She just moved to a better place. My wife really liked her, and then, you know, Emma and Reese, like, you know, she wants to be governor, and Reese really liked Mary, and Emma said, is she going to be vice governor? And I said, yeah, so we're going to change the name of that, by the way, that's going to be vice governor. So Joe, and then they went through a process of making sure this fit, and it took a long time, and I weighed in at the end, and I trust my people, and they did a great job, and I think when you become governor, you got to have a great team of people around you can trust. And they got character and ethics, and they work hard, and I love them. I can't believe I got them. You know, I don't know how it happened. But I want to tell you, I went to Monroe County the other night. You ever been there, Joe? You ever been to Graysville? You ever gone 45 minutes outside of Graysville? Well, I did, okay? Let me tell you a story. I get to this place, and they say, it's going to be a big crowd. We have a level 2 snow emergency. They take the fire engines out of the building, and they set up tables. And then they got the women who've been cooking for 2 days with a crank, and they crank open the kind of the steel curtain. Over 200 people in the room that night. I left that town with campaign contributions of $30,000. I told George Voinovich about it. He said, I don't believe you. Joe, what we're finding is, and this is not the John Kasich show. These are people now that are saying, please help us. I was reading a column the other day that was sent to me out of the Washington Post. People in Warren, Ohio, think about this. They're taking their class rings, they're taking their mother's wedding ring, they're taking their sister's jewelry, and they're going down to the pawn shop to get $700 for their most prized possessions. People want this to be changed. They don't want a bailout from somebody else. They just want an opportunity, and they want some hope. So we got a responsibility way beyond the Republican Party and way beyond the responsibility to the people. I think we've about said enough.
Mary, what made the Lieutenant Governor's post more appealing to you than the auditor's position? Is there anybody you'd like to see as your successor?
Well, you know, as I said earlier, this is a great opportunity for us to finally transform government to make Ohio a prosperous state once again. And when John and I talked and we met, and my husband and Karen, we were all together, I think that we sat there and we were all shaking our heads This is a great opportunity to make a real difference for Ohio. And I grew up in Ohio, I was born here. I want my children to raise my grandchildren here when that day comes. And the only way that's going to happen is that my two boys have opportunities for good jobs. And for me personally, that's what this is about.
For the auditor spot, any successor?
We're going
We're gonna let Kevin answer that question.
to work with Kevin. Of course, we're
Yeah,
concerned about that.
absolutely.
But look, you got LeBron James, you don't leave him on the bench. I mean, the fact of the matter is that when this ticket has got people all over the state very excited. We had an exciting thing going. And now with Mary, it's like, wow, So because we're going to run strong at the top, and you take care of things at the top, it'll transfer all the way down. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt about it. I think we're going to be able to win the Ohio House. I think we're going to win congressional seats. And, get your strength. Wherever you can have it, get it. And Kevin DeWine's working hard. We're working with him. Mary's going to support whoever it is, that get them some training, and we're all going to be involved in this. So nobody should worry about the apportionment board. What they ought to worry about is we can get these policies out there, that people understand them, that they don't get distorted, that they get tired of the mudslinging that's clearly going to come. That's okay, we can deal with it. And that we just push. And if we push, it'll be a new way and a new day in this state. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you all for coming.
Was that your first official news conference since announcing?
It might have been my first official news conference. I've never had everybody together. I've had Hershey and Hallett with me in the hallway, but I don't think I had. I think that might